Okay, I'm going to show you how to then go on to the second stage of the project. So you've finished up your vector robot. You might have like a color in the background. You can see I have this little color that I used when I was building it, which is great for the first part of the project. So when we first export, we did file, export, export as JPEG, and that's what we turned in. But we're ready to do part 2 of the project. So PNGs can have transparency in them. It's going to make it easier to work with it in Photoshop. So I'm actually going to first get rid of this background color. You might need to unlock it. So if you had this locked and it's not letting you select it, which you probably locked it while you were working, just go ahead and unlock, select that image, and then I'm just going to delete it, or I can scoot it over onto the side of my artboard. I'm just going to do that for now. As you can see, my artboard, I have tons of stuff on the outside of it. These were some reference images I was looking at. Here's like, I literally did an alt drag and tried a different color. So use the edges of your artboard, okay? But then this is gonna be my final artwork. So I think I'm ready. I've gotten rid of that. Check that it has all the details you want. And then I'm gonna go ahead and export this as PNG. So I'm gonna say File, Export, Export As, just like we've done for the JPEG. Figure out where you're gonna put it. And this time for type, instead of JPEG, we're going to choose PNG. And the PNG is going to have transparency in it. And I think, all right, and then I'm going to hit use artboard and export. All right, and you can see that it's giving me like this little preview, and it looks like it is indeed transparent. If for some reason it looks white, like so, just go ahead and change this to transparent. Okay, so for the settings for the PNG box, you want to have resolution high. We always want high, 300. Okay, I don't change this. I don't change this. Just make sure it's high and that it's set on transparent. And then I can say okay. And let me just give it a new name. I don't want to save over something. I don't know. Oh, this is on my other drive. Let me find where I'm gonna save it. Oopsies. There we go. I'm gonna save it here. Again, use artboard, export. If I didn't click use artboard, I would get all this other stuff around there. 300, transparent, great. I'm gonna say okay. All right, then I can hop over to Adobe Photoshop, and I'm gonna open Photoshop, and I'm gonna say File, New. I'm going to get a print 8x10. I'm going to switch this to 8x10 so that way it fits nice in my map board. And I'm just going to go ahead and give it a name. Vector Robot Add. And I'm going to go ahead and just say create. All right, so I've got my piece of paper here. And give yourself something in the background. Again, you could get a paper texture if you want. I'm just going to show, why don't I just show with a paper texture? Paper texture. I'm not going to spend too long looking for images. Remember, always get high res. Okay. Tools, size, large. All right, maybe I want to do kind of an old paper texture. Let's see what I can find quickly. All right, I'm going to use this for now. Click copy. Go ahead and paste this in. This doesn't look high res enough, but that's okay for just the demo. I don't want to take forever. All right, hit enter. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up my robot that I exported. Remember, I exported as a PNG, so it should have a transparent background, which means it will be really easy to add to this. Sorry, I've got Illustrator and Photoshop open. I'm going to say File, Open. Find where you have that saved. Oops, I clicked away from it. Digital. Vector. Let's see, here we go. PNG, here it is. So you can go ahead and open this up. And then I'm going to say Control A, Control C. Control V, and then Control T. So you can see I didn't have to cut it out or anything because it was already It was already transparent for me, so that's the advantage of the PNG. And now I'm gonna go ahead and give myself maybe a blend mode. Maybe I wanna do, let's see, I think I'm actually gonna keep this normal and I'm gonna put the paper texture over him and then do multiply for the paper texture and turn it down a little bit. And then do, that way I have a little bit of the paper texture. And then I'm gonna right click, say create clippy mask. And then you know what? I'm gonna actually duplicate this texture and then put one of them below. Let's see how this looks. This one will keep on normal. And I'm gonna turn this back up to 100%. All right, so I've got my paper there, and then I have, sorry, I did that a little bit confusing. All right, I've got my paper here, I've got my robot on top. I do want some texture on my robot, but I didn't want too much, so I'm just gonna duplicate it, drag it above my robot. And you can do anything you want. You guys, you know, all the Photoshop techniques that we've learned. I'm just gonna do a clipping mask so I can get a little bit of texture on my robot here, but I don't want a ton. I just want a little bit. There we go. I don't know. Play around, okay? And then you're gonna go ahead and get yourself a custom font. I'm gonna just show quickly how to do the custom font. Let's see, 1001 free fonts. And I will post this website for you. There are some futuristic kind of fonts on here. So I don't know what alien looks like, but sci-fi, there's a whole sci-fi section of fonts. So I'm probably gonna use one of these sci-fi fonts. You can see this is, I think, the one that I used for the other robot ad. I'll just go ahead and download this. Maybe I'll do this one this year, audio wide. I'm gonna go ahead and download it. Okay, it's gonna download a little zip folder. You're gonna go ahead and open that up. If you lose where this is, it's gonna be in your downloads. So I'm gonna double click. I'm gonna find the file that says TTF. Sometimes there's more than one. If there's like a bold version, an italic version, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this, hit install. And then I'm gonna take note of the name. The name is audio wide. So when I hop back to Photoshop, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some text on here. I'm gonna go ahead and, I think I need to make this background a little bit darker. Okay, there we go. That way my robot shows up a little more. I'm gonna play around with that. Maybe I'll add a drop shadow also. I'm gonna add a drop shadow, maybe behind my little robot. Give it a little bit of separation. Okay, there we go. I'm happier with that. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add some text on here. So I'm gonna get my T for text. I'm gonna add my, I just clicked one time, robot name. Now I'm gonna go ahead and highlight this, and what was that called? Audio wide, there it is. I'm gonna use my color picker. Maybe I'll get a color from here so I can stay in the same color family. And then I can hit Control T and I can move this thing around. So on this layer, Control T. Make that a little bit bigger. I'm just using Shift and Alt to scale my text, so on and so forth. Okay, I'm actually gonna Alt drag the effect here onto there, and then that will give me a little bit here as well. Okay, so that's how you can get started. You don't have to use a paper texture. Let me turn the paper texture off. You could also do a gradient. So I'm gonna go ahead and not gradient map, that's if you wanna do a duotone. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a gradient back here, so that's another option. You can do a gradient on here. I'm gonna hit reverse. Okay, so you could do a gradient, you could add a texture, whatever you want. You can also completely recolor your robot. So let me just go ahead and do Shift Control E to do a composite layer. You can, you know, use something in the filter gallery if you want to apply one of these filters, you're welcome to do that. I think I'd probably need to take off my gradient because that's getting a little crazy there. But you could use a filter. Let's see what else is in that filter gallery that you might want to use. Add a little film grain, poster edges. Maybe I'll do that, etc. You could also do a duotone if you want. So you can use the little yin yang and gradient map. Remember, this is how we get our duotone. So you can recolor your image if you want. So it doesn't have to be the original colors of your starting document either. Okay? So lots of different things that you can do for your robot advertisement. Just make sure you're using a custom font. I'll post that website. Make sure you export as a PNG so that way you can easily use this in Photoshop.